Have you ever sat down to play a solo session and while you're in the middle of it, you just feel nothing? You've got the dice, your characters are ready, the world is waiting, and yet it's flat, boring, like something's missing. The truth is, even in solo play, we need structure. Not rails, but rhythm. And in this video, I'm going to show you how thinking like a storyteller can transform your sessions. We'll break down a simple narrative structure, yes, the one from English class, and talk about how you can use it to make every solo game feel like a story worth telling. And trust me, this isn't about making your solo games feel like homework, it's about making them feel alive. So, hi, I'm Jared, and I've always fantasized about being an author. And this is where you say, hi, Jared, and make me feel emotionally supported. Thanks. I recently found a folder full of writing prompts from when I was in the writing club in elementary school. Reading through some of the things I wrote was funny and embarrassing. In theory, writing is easy. I have all these ideas in my head. It shouldn't be too hard to get them out. Well, that's not really the truth. It is hard. It takes someone special to put together a book that gets people to flip page after page wanting to read what comes next. It takes structure. Solo play can feel the same. Getting our thoughts about the adventure from our mind to actual play is tough sometimes, and that's what we're going to discuss today. When it comes to writing a book, you can sit down and start writing. But if you just throw your ideas onto a page without thought, it can lead to a really lackluster read. And what sounds great in your head can turn into a jumbled mess if you aren't careful. The best authors know how to build and get you curious from the start, pulling you in from that first line of the book or chapter and keeping you engaged until the end. In the same way, solo play is not so different from writing a book, in my opinion. And I believe solo play is far more rich when you learn how to play not by just throwing your thoughts haphazardly to the wind, but when you follow a loose structure that naturally guides you, building more compelling and engaging adventures in a way that doesn't feel tedious. Stories tend to follow a structure similar to this. You have the beginning, the inciting incident, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and then the conclusion or resolution. If you're like me, you probably saw this a lot in school as you were growing up. But is there a way to work that into your solo games? I think so. And before we get into it, I do want to clarify that I don't think every session needs every piece of the structure mentioned. I think that this structure works very well for adventure arcs as well, and familiarizing ourselves with the principles of this age-old structure will help us identify trends of our play to make them more and more compelling and successful. Now, let's get started at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Beginnings are important. They help set the tone for what we're about to get into. I think of everything we consume as a culture. That opening episode of the show you're now hooked on. The first page of a book you can't stop reading. The first video you see of a YouTuber you really like to watch. Those first impressions really shape your desire to keep coming back for more. We apply that same principle to the things we create. And as you embark on a solo adventure, take time to create a compelling beginning. Something that excites you to get started and informs the mind of what's going to come. Here's some practical ways that you can begin a solo session that might give you the momentum to get into the session. So one is begin a session with an intro. I've been doing this for a while now and will highlight where the characters are at, what they've been doing, and point ahead to what they might be excited for or anxious about in the coming session. 2, you can start the session by having a conversation between your PCs or with an NPC that sets the tone for where the session is headed. Or 3, maybe you ended in a weird spot that would make it hard to have a cold open because you're already in the thick of it. Consider a flashback for one of your characters where they found themselves in a similar situation. So that's just 3 options, but what's your favorite way to start a session? You can drop it below and I'll probably steal it and use it in my next session. Next, we have the inciting incident. This will be dictated by what your play looks like in any given session. That incident can also be called the call to adventure. This is when Bilbo's house is flooded with dwarves looking for a burglar, or when Dorothy is swept off to Oz in The Wizard of Oz, or the classic quest given to a party in a tavern. Your inciting incident will look different session by session. There may not be some wild thing that calls your characters to action, but it can present itself in subtle ways that you may start noticing. The main goal here is to have your characters respond to something. I think that these are some of the ways that you can start noticing small but powerful inciting incidents in your sessions. 1. Ask how your characters really feel about something. It may be something small, or it may have the potential to alter the character's path for good. How does Ulfric really feel about the gods? Does Eliara think the mission is doomed to fail? By asking these questions, you plant different inciting incidents that can lead to ultimate climaxes in your adventure. And you can have multiple strands running at the same time. A second way is to take time to explore the minute details. Just think about the world around your characters every now and then and how it might play into the story or create new hooks. Nothing crazy there, but those inciting incidents are your own. Use those to grow your stories. Then we have the rising action. This is everything that follows that inciting incident. The tensions that form, the things that rise to the surface that show what is at stake. In solo play, I think we can look at the rising action and dismiss it by thinking, this will handle itself. I don't really have to do much to nurture this step. And I think that's a trap that lends itself to going down a road of half-cracked sessions that don't highlight the importance of the rise. As you journey on the rising action through your sessions, I think it's vital to look at every role and interaction as a building block that's key for the success of the adventure as a whole. If you simply roll, find there is no encounter, and move on to the next encounter, what's the point? Fill those spaces with things that build the action. Here are a few options that help locate and build upon your rising action. Number 1, look at what your characters have been through on their journey following the inciting incident and pinpoint some of the things that have been on their mind through the process. From there, you can tug on the loose strings and see what unravels. In my example with Ulfric, you can learn that he had a bad experience with a cleric in the past, or was hurt by the followers of some god. As the string unravels, you learn what to ask next to build the action as it rises. Number 2, instead of looking for the highs like encounters in combat, look at the downbeats of your story and see what you can milk out of it. Start up conversations with your PCs that address concerns, or roll on a prompt table that keeps the action on a rise rather than just living fight to fight and encounter to encounter. Enacting things that you find effective to push the tension of a situation forward will help you grow and create more and more complex and compelling sessions. Now we make it to the climax. This is probably the easiest thing to identify and the thing you need the least amount of help with, so I won't hang out here too long. The climax of your given session or adventure is what likely drives you. Will the party catch the bad guy, or will they fail? Can the party unite the warring nations, or will war ravage the lands? Can the party get a girlfriend for their favorite NPC, or will it end in tragedy? You likely don't know the answer to this, but you might have a preference. My only advice on the climax is just to trust the dice. Don't force anything, or you might miss out on a more compelling story that is told outside of the control of your mind. But if you do tip the scales a little bit, at least let the NPC find the girl of his dreams. Don't drag another NPC through that heartbreak. They've been through enough already. We've just hit the big moment of our session or adventure. There's only one place to go from here, which brings us to the sponsor of this video, Outback Steakhouse. Let's go out back tonight. Life will still be there tomorrow. I wish I was being serious, and I also wish I didn't just sing that, but that jingle is going on 20 years at this point, and it lives in my head rent free. No, the only place to go from here is down. The falling action is a very unique moment, and honestly, one of my favorites in the role playing game world. I love when the tensions have settled and the characters have a chance to unwind from everything they went through. I think this is when some of the most fun sessions happen in group play because everyone gets to celebrate this completion of this big task and talk about what comes next. However, I think that this can be an easily overlooked part of the storytelling process in solo play. We finish up the climax of the quest we have been on for a while now, the thing that's been driving us, and we look for what comes next in the story. What we need to do is sit with what happened and let it define the story moving forward. A few ways I think we can implement this are: 1. We stop thinking about our games as action, 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 and instead think of it how we think about life in general. When we go through an intense thing in real life, we typically take time to unwind and process what happened. So it would benefit us to try to do that in solo play as well. I mean, it would be weird if a campaign ended the second you defeated a big bad guy. So take time for the cooldown. Number 2, have things in place like a carousing system to look forward to when you make it back to town or finish up a quest. I think this is such a fun way to gamify the experience of the falling action. If you are unfamiliar with carousing, it's a way to spend gold to gain XP and fun hooks or items after the action is over with. Shadow Dark has a carousing system built in, but I've seen other systems out there that have something similar. Spend time asking questions about your characters in the aftermath of the adventure. That's number 3. This is a great time to unpack how they felt about everything. Maybe a PC died in the course of this quest. That could rattle some members of the party. Or maybe the quest was the only thing driving them. Maybe it's time for them to reevaluate if they will continue the adventure or pursue retirement from adventuring altogether. This is a great what's next time period in the game. In conclusion, we have the conclusion. Sorry for the convolution. How we end sessions is important. Sometimes things prevent us from having a clean cutoff. But when it is possible, I believe it's best to end a session at a point that leaves you thinking, man, I can't wait to pick back up next session. I've referenced Dungeon Crawler Carl quite a bit, and I think this is something Matt Dinneman, the author, does fantastically in his books. You get to the end of a chapter, ready to put the book down, and then, boom, something happens that makes you want to read into the next chapter, whether you've got time for it or not. So, how do we capture that same spark and tie it into our sessions? This is where we may differ a little bit from the literary conclusion. Number 1, I think we need to consider tying in cliffhangers. Although you may need to do this sparingly because I believe it does need to be organic. But if you see the opportunity, jump at it. Eyes peer at the characters from the darkness, and an eerie feeling tugs at their minds. What could await them? It all depends on how you play. Number 2, maybe you can sit the characters down at the end of a long adventure and have them talk to one another. This can tie into the falling action a bit, but I think that conversations between your characters are important to really understand who they are. Number 3, honestly, conclusions in solo play are like the rest of the steps. They're unique to your game. In a solo conclusion, you get to ask yourself the question of what's next, not just for the characters. So as you tie up a solo session or adventure, start asking what could be around the next corner, or if there will be a next corner. With that in mind, how do you wrap up your sessions? Do you have a thing that you like to do? I tend to write recaps of my sessions to make it easier to check back in on them. So, there you have it. Your solo sessions don't need to feel random or disconnected. By borrowing a bit of structure from storytelling, you can turn your games into something that feels complete, satisfying, and even a little cinematic. It doesn't have to be rigid. This isn't about railroading or scripting your game. It's about giving your sessions a rhythm that makes each moment hit harder. Even a quick 20-minute session can have a beginning, middle, and end that matters. I'd love to know, do your solo sessions follow a structure like this, or do you just let the story happen? Drop a comment below and let me know what works for you. And if you have tips, ideas, questions, bring them too. I'd love to chat. And hey, if your NPCs are still recovering from that heartbreak, maybe give them a win this time. Yeah? Thanks for hanging out, and until next time, happy rolling, and may your stories always be worth telling. Peace.